Martine, you're in that shot if you don't want to be. You might want to move that way.
Be in the shot.
So you better see if she's interested or not. Can everyone see that screen and this here?
Yeah.
Awesome. Probably can't see me though.
I'm blind as I'm going down.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yes, over here. Don't worry, you'll get an exercise book. Okay, so let's get started. So welcome to 5-week strength and nutrition challenge. So the idea of this challenge is for 5 weeks we concentrate on something that's health related, and hopefully we use that by manipulating what we do with our strength and with our nutrition. Okay? So whether it be fat loss, weight gain, muscle gain, or we just want to, for 5 weeks, be a little bit more strict with and put our exercise and nutrition at the forefront of what we're trying to do. Okay? It's nice to have something to actually work towards. We kind of get lost in the year's quite long, and it's nice to have a little dedicated period where we can actually concentrate on the things that are important. And exercise and nutrition should be at the forefront of everything that you do because it affects everything that we do. If you have poor nutrition and you don't exercise, you're a slug and your life's probably going to be like a slug too. So what we'll go through today is that. So we'll go through, I've already probably touched on it, but 5 weeks, obviously it's a short amount of time, but it is amazing what you can get done sometimes in when you're actually concentrating on that thing that's important to you. So if your weight loss goal is say 5 kilos, let's say you want to lose weight, but you absolutely go to town on the kids' Easter eggs, well then you're not going to get where you need to be. Okay, so 5 weeks is good, but you've got to make sure that you're consistent within that 5-week period, not 1 week on, 2 days off, 3 days on. I went through it, what's my goal and how do I measure it? So I need you to clearly identify what you want to actually achieve out of the 5 weeks, and then we need to measure it accordingly. So to get your deadlift from 120 to 200, well then we need to give you a program that's specific for that goal. If the goal is to be a little bit more consistent with your food, there might be a weight loss goal, or we're trying to put on muscle, then again, we need to make sure that we can measure that. Because if we're not measuring it, how do we know that we're actually improving? And that can be subjective or objective. So we can use data to measure our goals, so the scanner or our tape measures, or it can be subjective. So do we actually feel better? Are we moving any better? Yeah, that's fine. We're going to go through probably the biggest thing today that you'll get out of is identifying your calorie intake. So if you want to lose fat, stay the same, or put on muscle, you either need to be in a deficit, a maintenance, or a surplus. So what does that mean? It means that if I eat 3,000 calories a day and I'm only burning 2,000, then that 1,000 calories doesn't just disappear. Our body stores it as fat. So if you're not in a deficit, you will not lose fat. That is the biggest thing I want you to take out today. Not in a deficit, you won't lose fat. If you want to put on muscle, you need to be in a small surplus. If you want to put on muscle and fat, so say you're a 60 kilo person and you want to put on 20 kilos of weight, then you'll need to be in a massive surplus. So it's pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of things around that that make it quite difficult to follow. Macros, the new wonder word, we'll go through all that means. Meal prep, and probably the other thing is I'll go through it in a sec. Supplements, and I'll go through what we're going to cover in our strength training program. So the 5-week period should be something that you want to carry on for the next 5 weeks. So if you want to lose 20 kilos in 5 weeks, well I can show you how to do that, right? But you will not do it in the next 5 weeks because you'll just be eating lettuce and you'll be eating it 20 times a week. Okay? It needs to be consistent, it needs to be realistic. A lot of people have a lot of problems with challenges, and I myself have a bit of a problem with them in that you can be so strict, but then if you're not actually wanting to do it when you're sick, tired, things aren't going your way, then you just don't have that base plan that you can revert back to that you know that works for you. So yes, you're going to be a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more strict in the 5-week period, but when the 5 weeks lapses, what happens? What to from then? Well, just follow the plan. So we need to find a plan that's individual. I'll do it today as a collective, which I've found that works for most people. But if we've got someone like Taryn who, vegetarian or vegan? Yeah, so there's obviously, we're going to have a different approach to her nutrition and training as opposed to someone who's a meat eater, because there's just different demands that our nutrition places on our body. So the biggest thing is you need to listen and learn and find out what works for you. So if I say to, say, Brendan, I want you to do 40% protein, 13% carbs and 30% fat, and you're going to get this goal and it doesn't work, well then we need to just manipulate and change those ratios until we find out what works for you, because we all have different things that'll work for us. And that's our hormones, our sex, how tall we are, what's our life been like previous to this, have we ever been big, are we hormonally compromised, what's our stress levels like, do we sleep, do we have water? There's all these things that will factor in what's going to actually give us the change. So we're going to find out what works for you, and if it doesn't, then I'll keep tinkering until we get it right. Cool? So, like I just mentioned before, we need a we need a goal so that we can constantly ask ourselves if what we're doing is actually going to get us where we need to be. That's why that goal needs to be really important, because if it's not, we just get lost and we're just always sort of meandering our way through it, rather than having something that we can concentrate on and go, right, 5 kilos, this is what I'm going to do each week, week in, week out to try and get that. So it's either being fat loss, or is it trying to be more consistent, is it trying to be happier? Okay, one of the biggest things that we see in the society at the moment is mental health, and nutrition and training is one of the 2 biggest things that you can manipulate in your life to factor that in. If you're upset all the time, you're feeling low, depressed, it immediately takes over a lot of other things in our body. Strength, do we want to put on some muscle? The other thing is, don't let me tell you what your goal is. You're here to tell me what your goal is so I can help you. Not me telling you, don't eat chocolate. Don't do this, don't do that. Because that's not going to work either. I was coming up with an example on the way here in the car. I don't think it's going to work, so I won't mention that. Or you just want to pick up something new. There's so much bullshit out there on Instagram and Facebook and magazines that say, don't do this, fast, don't fast, have keto, do paleo. Well, that's just them telling you what works for them, not you. So if we find out what's manageable and sustainable, then you're going to keep doing it. And that is the biggest thing I want you to do today, is if it's not sustainable, it will not work for you. If it's a chore, it's a bore. Alright, let's go through what your scans mean. So everyone grab their scans out. So in the top left hand corner, that's you. Hi. And then you'll see that your weight is at the top, you've got your muscle mass and your body fat. Okay? What we're trying to achieve with our scan is a D shape. So it starts, if you picture a D, the muscle mass should be quite high, our weight should be down, and our fat should be down. Okay? That is the optimal body composition that we're aiming to achieve.
Should be fairly even, weight and body fat mass?
Yeah, they somewhat, they will. You'll never get a straight D shape, I've never seen that. Normally, people who are muscly, their weight's slightly up, so it'll be like a skewed D. So it'll be more like that. Whereas the fat's here, our weight's sort of in the middle, and our muscle mass is here. So why is that important? Because the more muscle we have, the more calories we burn at rest. Okay? The other thing is, if we've got more muscle, we're less likely to get injured. Our insulin sensitivity is really high. We're stronger because we've got more muscle mass to actually recruit. And it's really hard to have a lot of fat if you've got a lot of muscle, because obviously you're doing the right thing to get the right amount of muscle. You can't just be naturally muscly. Obviously we've got genetics and whatever else, but we've got to fight to keep our muscle mass. So you'll see that the normal range is there for, say Kirsty's 24 to 29. You want to be above that. So you don't falling within the normal ranges. We want to try and achieve outside that range. And you'll find with CrossFit people, and I've trained, you know, probably 1,000 other scans at other gyms, that they have more muscle mass per sort of subject, per group. Which is cool because of the nature of the sport that we do, or the exercise that we do. We lift heavy weights, we're consistent, you know, you're probably training anywhere between 3 to 5 times a week. So you'll find that muscle mass is higher than the general population. Actually, much more. So you'll see muscle mass, your body fat. Don't be too concerned about the protein, the fat-free mass. Like, you're not going to go and tell your next door neighbour, like, oh, how much protein have you got in your body, right? The scanners are great. It's like $10,000 worth of equipment, so you want to be somewhat accurate. But they're within sort of 5 to 10% of a DEXA scanner. So it's not, a DEXA scanner is, you jump in, they're like $300 a pop, and they measure like everything. They're like the be all and end all. This is, yeah, between 5 to 10%. So the scan is great if we use the same scan at the end, but they're not the be all and end all. I've had negative scans and minus 8 centimeters on waists at the end. So if you get a negative scan at the end, you've tried really hard, well, that's just one part of the picture that we use as our objective measurement. Are we getting stronger? What's our tape measures like? Are the clothes fitting different? What's the photos look like? So we want to try and have a collective use of objective data to make sure. Do not rely on this. I promise you, do not rely on this. If I drank like 5 litres of water and then jumped on and trained and jumped on, I could manipulate that a bit more to suit me. So don't be too concerned with just the scan. We've got other things that we can use to measure our progress. Down in the middle, you'll see your BMI. We do not use BMI. BMI is how we used to do stuff when we were old and seedy and they had no actual data or real life stats to back it up. So it just uses your height and your weight with a formula that says, yeah, you're fat or you're not. Don't use BMI. Jared didn't pass his COPS test, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, because his BMI is too high. And I reckon there's probably not anyone in the gym that he couldn't beat in a 5K run. So in terms of fitness and his body fat and his waist measurement, has no bearing. It's just because he's a bigger guy. He's got 49 kilos of muscle. It's like sky high. You'll see that the second one is the percentage of body fat. So that's probably the one that I'll be looking at in the scan to see whether we're actually progressing and we're doing the right thing. So your body fat percentage will be between, I don't know what it'll be, you've got your ranges there. So here's 18 to 28. So if you're falling somewhere in the middle there, you're kicking goals. If you're slightly over, fine, we've got a little bit of work to do. That's why we're here. The waist to hip ratio I haven't found is very accurate on these. Just, I'd rather do a tape measure to figure out your waist to hip ratio, yeah.
What's it measuring?
So it's the measurement between your waist and your hip divided by 100. So 80. Yeah, it's like the difference between your waist and your hip. And they give you a number, and if they fall within a certain range. So females is 80, that's a double check, I think it's 85 to 87, males are 92 for a waist measurement. That's what we should be taking off. The measurement at the belly button is where we sort of, if that's under 92 for males, you've got a less risk of developing cardiovascular disease, stroke, diabetes, and for females it's obviously slightly lower because you guys are smaller.
What's the measurement?
I have to double check, I think 85 to 87, and then males is under 92. And then your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. So that means how many calories do you burn at rest. So if you're in a coma, okay, your BMR is how many calories your body would use doing nothing. Because our body uses energy to talk, to digest, for our brain function. Our brain's constantly wired, it actually requires energy to produce chemical energy, etc. So we actually burn calories at rest. And what we will try to do today is to assess what our BMR is, and then we'll figure out how many calories we need to eat in order to be in a deficit. We're not in a coma. Some people are active, some people are moderately active, some people are highly active. So we'll do that in a sec. I've sent through on your phones, and you'll have that there too, guys out there who are going to listen to this talk later on, your calculator. Let's see if that's there. Anyone got any questions about the scan? The other one is you'll get a fitness score down the bottom, on the bottom right hand side. Anything above 85 is really good. Anything above 90 is excellent. If you're not there, it's just using, it's not how fit you are. Do not use that as a measure of your fitness. It's just using your body fat and your muscle mass according to your height, gender and age. So just spews out a score according to that. The more muscle mass you have, the higher you'll be. I've got a guy who's 116 kilos and his fitness score is 102. He's a $116. Like he's not light. And he needs to lose a lot of fat, but his fitness score is 102. So take out of that what you want.
What do the pictures on the right mean?
Yeah, so it breaks it down into your segmental lean mass and your segmental fat. So it gives you an indicator whether you're sitting over or under. I found that people with muscle mass, if you're over on all of them, you're doing pretty well. And the fat needs to be either normal or slightly under. If you're over, so what? Like, that's exactly why we use these to see if we make any change down in the future. Okay, so if I get you guys to grab your phones out and have a look at that calculator, I want you to plug in, so make sure you use the metric system. You'll open the link, slide down to the bottom of the page. I can't grab my phone, those guys are around.
You have to go back and enter your own. Yeah, you have to go back.
So go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll find that. You can do that later. That's fine. So plug in your details and have a look at what your BMR will be. You're on the There's two different equations that they use, or there's actually a couple, but there's two that you'll find. One takes into factor that your lean mass, and one doesn't. We're going to use the one that doesn't, so we get basically a ballpark figure of how many calories we should actually be having. So you put in your age, your...
You put in your own activity level?
Yeah. Now, just with your activity level, I would probably say no one would be in the highly active unless you're like a labourer by day and then you come and train CrossFit once or twice a day. So a lot of people overestimate their actual activity levels. So for me, I think I put like the second or third one, like moderately active.
So it's a day exercise.
Pardon? Yeah, it says that, but I would definitely underestimate.
Daily exercise. Or exercise.
It should say how many series have I watched on Netflix, and it says 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 10 to 12. And then you can put your level in there. Because
daily exercise or intense exercise 3 to 4 times a week.
yeah, that'd be about right.
It's like on like 9 times.
Yeah, then it's talking outside of actual CrossFit. So like what do you like on your feet? Do you sit down on a desk all day? Yeah. So it's not just your activity inside these four walls, it's how active are you through the day. I would underestimate, because if you overestimate, you're going to have a calorie that's too high, and it's, yeah, we'll end up blowing out, and you'll be like, Tom, I've eaten the amount of calories that you told me to, and you'll be like, yeah, because you're in a surplus.
So if you sit in an office all day?
Yeah, I would put it like, factor in your CrossFit a little bit, but I would be like that second to third one. Like, no one in here's a slug, and they're probably not on the first one, but you might be second, third.
Yeah.
There's probably only like 2 people in this whole box that would have the last one.
Yeah.
And we know who they are. Bloody don't work.
See, it's got the basic metabolic rate at the top.
Yep.
As an option. Can you use that as an option? Quite or not?
Well, you can. You actually can.
Alright, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, just put it in. Yeah, I reckon you do that. So has everyone got that number?
Yeah.
Yep. Does anyone want to quickly just tell me? Yep. I reckon you probably probably 67. But for a guy who's quite late too, I'd probably put it in 67 as well. Just because it might give you not enough calories.
I know, mine's really low.
So does it show you back up here? So then you go back up there and that's what it's telling you.
I put 3 and 4 and I'm moved and I'm moved.
So, that's not many calories to eat on a weight.
No, but that's also, show me that.
So that's kind of daily.
Yeah, but the other thing is they give you
Just smell stuff.
You'll be on that. The fluids they pump into you while you're in a coma might be 16.
come back to it. You're
If you go back up, exercises.
I went higher because I was like, I was even lower until I love that.
this is just a ballpark guide, so don't worry too much, and I'll be a bit more specific about it after.
I'll go in.
Any questions? Got your thing? So what you want to try and figure out is it factors in your BMR and it times it by, I think it's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, and then it spews out a number. Now, in order to, I think it gives you a guide as well. So are you trying to do aggressive weight loss, mild weight loss, or the one that they suggest? We don't want aggressive. Okay, any more than a loss of 500 calories deficit a day is too much. Okay, it's too hard to follow.
As in, I can maintain weight.
Yes. Yeah. So if your maintain is that's how many calories you use with your BMR times by your activity level to stay exactly the way you are at the moment.
Anything 500
500, anything less than 500 of that, yes, correct, would be too much. So that's how much we would be needing to be in a deficit. 500. If you're trying to put on weight, we need you about 200 to 300 above that. Above the one. Who's surprised about how many calories you're actually allowed to eat?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But again, we've got to figure out.
What is 2,000 calories left? Like that to me, I'm just like, that means something.
Yeah, show me.
Only because I don't understand what 2,000 calories.
That's fine. That's what we're going to go through. Now.
What it just maintain 2,000 for 1 mile is 1,700.
The other thing it doesn't factor in is if your muscle mass. So if you are lean, you're probably a little bit higher than that because you've got muscle mass to maintain and it's actually quite expensive to keep. So you'll have a higher metabolic rate with more muscle mass. There is an equation that I can show you when you enter your muscle mass, but I'll just go through that after. Okay. So calories. We'll go through what all those mean. So you've got 3 different macronutrients when you eat your food. So it's just breaking it down into something that's quite simple for you to follow. So your protein, carbs, and your fats. Your protein is 4 calories per gram of protein. Your carbs is also 4 calories per gram. And your fats is 9 calories per gram. So what does that mean? If you have, say, a can of tuna here, okay, the protein in this will be 15 grams. So you just do 15 times 4, and that'll give you the calories in protein. So it'll be 60 calories of protein in the tuna. Okay? Then you would use your other macronutrients, and tuna has less than 1 gram of carbs, less than 1 gram of sugar, less than 1 gram of fat. So this can, well, it's a little bit less. Yeah, 68 calories in a can of tuna. Okay? That's how they figure it out. There's less than 1 gram, so the rest would be carbs, sugars, and fats. Okay? So that's how we figure out how many calories. And the calories is like I think it's how much fuel there is to burn a litre of water or wherever. I can't remember what the thing they use, but basically it's how much you use to burn off a certain amount of water, and they can use that to actually, so if you're at 2,400 calories, they know how much exercise and your basal metabolic rate and stuff will be to actually eat into that. In terms of finding out how many proteins, how many carbs, how many fats we're meant to have, we can use up a simple ratio for our goals. So I've found in the past that 40-30-30 works really well. So 40% protein, 30% carbs, 30% fat, and that would probably be for the people who, anyone here have if they had a large bowl of pasta and a garlic bread, who would feel like a slug about 10 minutes after? Yeah. Some people can have it and they just feel like they've got all the energy in the world, okay? Particularly people who are really lean and who are really insulin sensitive.
What is insulin sensitive, mate?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because I love talking about insulin.
Sorry.
Insulin is the hormone that your pancreas secretes in order to deal with your blood glucose. Meaning that if I have something that's stacked full of sugar, my body has a process in order to deal with the sugar demand in our blood. And it likes to keep a normal range. Our whole body is built on this fact that it tries to maintain normal. And it's got a big fancy word called homeostasis. So your pH, your sugar, your blood pressure, your heart rate, we have a normal level that our body likes to sit at where it's really comfortable. And if it's not, it has things in place in order to change that. And the way we change our blood glucose is by the insulin response. And for people who are really, really big, oh, she's still going on those step-ups. For people who are really big, their insulin sensitivity is really poor. So if you've been 180 kilos for a long, long, long time, your ability to deal with that blood glucose is really poor. The one thing that we can do to increase our insulin sensitivity is have less fat and more muscle. So the problem is, if our blood glucose is high, so if this is normal for us, okay, when we eat food and it's really sugar and we're constantly eating it, it starts doing this, right? And our body hates that because it does these big surges where it needs to dump all this insulin to get it out of our blood. And the problem is when we have high insulin, we release cortisol. And cortisol's job is to store that sugar as fat because we're not using it. So if you're constantly flicking your sugar levels up, you're releasing cortisol, and cortisol's, it's a great hormone to have, but it can also be really detrimental to put on fat. That's why people who have, like, oh, I haven't had sugar in a while, I've lost fat, because you're starting to let that insulin work for you. So we all secrete a certain amount of insulin, and where that doesn't happen is if you, say you have diabetes, you either don't secrete insulin or the insulin that you secrete doesn't get actually used up. And that can be a problem if your sugar levels are really high. You can lose limbs and all sorts of stuff if you have uncontrolled blood sugar levels, because it decreases the vascularity in your legs, and it's not good. Bad. So basically what we want to do is keep our blood sugars consistent without massive big spikes. It's okay to secrete insulin to get our blood sugar levels a little bit down because that's what we wanted just to achieve is normal. But if we dump lots of sugar in that we're not used to and our body's not actually designed to process, then it has this big effect on our body composition because of the cortisol. Any guesses on how much sugar is in one of these?
A lot.
One guess.
40 grams.
Yeah, 40 grams. Try 140 grams. Now to figure out the sugar, okay, per teaspoon, 4.2. So anyone got their calculator on? Bless you.
140.
140 divided by 4.2. Thank you, Sheldon. Pretty bloody close. 33 teaspoons of sugar.
That's incredible.
Right? Who thinks they could actually have 33 teaspoons of sugar in one go? If I go put down table sugar, you have it. Right? Does anyone know what they do with Coke? because Coke has about 12 to 13 teaspoons per can. So they actually put something in it, they actually put stuff in it to disguise the taste of sugar, so it tricks your body into thinking you're not having it, so that you don't get sick. Because if you have 33 teaspoons of sugar, it makes you sick, right? So they actually put a chemical in it, and they play with the acidity, so that you can think that the Coke tastes really good, but in fact you've got this massive surge, 15 teaspoons of sugar. They actually disguise it to trick your brain with a chemical, so you can have Coke. How fucked up's that? It's so bad. People are being held accountable.
How many kids, those bunnies, how many kids smash those bunnies?
Right, smash them, and then they're feral, because you gave 33 teaspoons of sugar.
And then they have all the other little eggs and nothing.
Crazy. Right, I had a
Is that where that crash comes in?
boom.
I've
Right?
got a bunny from last year sitting in my car that I haven't eaten.
So you have this massive surge of sugar in your body's like, no, insulin, and you're like, boom, and then you're just like sick. And your guts are starting to process 140 teaspoons of sugar. And it's legit, you know it's funny, it's like people who like put their fingers down their throat and try and vomit it back up. Well, the sugar goes into your bloodstream pretty much straight away. So you eat it, it's already gone, so you're just coughing up like the fat, because that takes a while to digest. Our body goes, oh, fat. And there is, so up here, 4.7 grams per serve, but there's 10 serves.
That bunny is 10.
So it's 47,
That's one set.
47 grams of fat. And to figure out the calories for just from fat, what do we do? Times by 9. That's how many calories of fat. If it's sugar, 14 point, whatever it was, 5, times 10, that's 140 grams of sugar. We times that by 4. Because carbs and sugar are the same. So 140, 280, 560. 560 calories from sugar.
So how many calories is that bunny?
Good question.
Is that in one of those
So there's 560 kilojoules. To figure out calories, I think it's 4.1. Don't hold it to me. Do you want to get a quick count out of it? And then this isn't just to scare you guys. This is just to make you take the ignorance out of why we're putting on muscle or why we're putting on fat, why we're not reducing fat. It's to make you accountable on actually what you're eating and take out the guesswork.
What calories is it?
So it's 560 divided by 4.1.
Divided by?
Yep. Times by 10.
It's like 136, okay. 1,365.
1,365 calories in a bunny.
I think my chest
We'll chuck in breakfast for that. Right? We'll chuck in breakfast for that, 400 calories. We'll chuck in lunch, 800 calories. We'll chuck in a couple of beers at dinner, 250 calories. So we've just had with our normal food, no bunny, what, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700 calories. We'll add in the bunny, 2,800 calories. How many do we need to be in a deficit? What did we say, 2,000? Yep, 800 surplus.
1,400.
You're not losing fat today. Because our calories were too high for what we need, our metabolic demands. What our BMR is, what our activity levels are. That's why we're not losing fat. And we need to be in a deficit to lose fat. And it needs to be around 500 to lose fat. There is 3,500 calories in half a kilo of adipose tissue, meaning fatty tissue, 3,500 calories. That means 500, 1,000, 1,500, 200, 200, 300, 7 days of being in a 500 calorie deficit is half a kilo of fat. That's why it's so hard to move. It's so easy to put on because we can just be constantly in this surplus because our body's like, oh, this is great, we're in a surplus. But in a deficit, our body goes, oh, I feel weak, I'm getting come downs off sugar because we're so used to being in a surplus. How do we create a deficit? We eat less and we exercise more. Or you eat the same, or you can still eat a little bit more, but you exercise way too much. And that has a problem as well because if you're running a marathon to lose weight every day, or you're trying to do Murph and you're just being crazy to lose fat, our adrenal glands will start to play up and then our body just starts to shut down. And then you can't exercise for 2 weeks and then you're back to square one. So that's why we need to find something that's consistent, sustainable and manageable that the body's going to love. So that's why the 500 calorie works really well, deficit every day. Okie doke. Any questions about your macros? So I've got here, this is 40, 30, 30 for people who are quite, so that those people who have that, feel really sluggish after having carbs, that's probably a really good one for you. This one here is for your mesomorphs. So you're actually a mesomorph, mate. So you'd be a 30, 40, 30. So meaning 30% protein, 40% carbs, 30% fats, because the carbs that you're going to use, you use really well, and they'll support your training. Carbs is not the enemy. Being in a surplus is the enemy. Okay? There is a bit of an adjunct in that, being that, hey mate, there is a bit of an adjunct in that, is that you'll find a lot of people will say that, oh, if I have 2,000 calories of this, that's all I have for the day, I'll still lose weight. No. You still need, your body still needs all its vitamins, its minerals, it needs to meet its protein demands. You need to be insulin sensitive, so you're not constantly placing your pancreas under load because of the sugar. So you can't have 2,000 calories of shit and expect to lose weight, because it'll affect a lot of other things. Some people will tell you that, like, as long as you're within in a deficit, it'll work. I've never found that. I just haven't found anyone that does it, because they just can't keep doing it. You've got to be in a deficit to lose fat. A lot of people will do it. They'll be like, okay, as long as I can hit my macros, I'll be fine. Never found that work. And this one here is for people who probably got like a 10 to 20 kilo goal, okay, and they're not very responsive to, like, they're really, you know, you look at toast and it's like your blood sugar goes like crazy. So if you've been big for a long time, and I'm talking like quite big, that 35% protein, 25% carbs, 40% fats. Would be a guide for you to work on. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't go up to you and say, I need you to have 473 grams of protein. That's why I'm giving you the information, and you can use it yourselves. Yep. Notice the protein's 1.9, so there's like, what's that in a bunny? Times 10. 11.9. Not a lot of protein. Cool, so the ratio's there. So if we're trying to figure out our percentage, this is what I didn't go through. So 40% of our calories are meant to be protein. You just do 40% of whatever your maintenance would be. So if it was 2,000, you'd be having 800 calories of protein a day. Divide that by 4 and it'll give you grams in food protein. If you're trying to achieve a muscle goal, okay, you'll need, for gentlemen, 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Okay. For females, it's about 1.5 to 1.7.
So what if you're trying to lose fat?
Yeah, so you can still do that. You need to make sure that your protein demands are suitable, and then we can manipulate that, dropping the carbs down and then dropping the fats. If you have a little bit more protein than you're allowed to, not allowed, but guided to, it doesn't matter, your body will still use it as a fuel. If there's any excess, it'll use it as a fuel, especially if you're in a deficit.
Sorry, just back on the protein 1.9.
Yeah, so it's a shitty pen. So the protein's 1.9 grams for the bunny. Yeah, the fat 7.4, total fat, saturated carbs and sugars. So if you have a look on your phones, I've sent you through it was delicious, but there's just no way in God's green earth was I ever going to eat it or drink it. There's I think I sent you the oat drink. Yeah, so click on that for me. And what I want you to do is just have a look. Yeah, that one. So open up, zoom in, and I want to just quickly show you how to read the food label. On a Rocky Road Big N. So can someone tell me what the protein is for that one? 9.6. What's the... That's okay, I'll go through the serving size. I want to make sure everyone was tricked. What was the carbs? 38%. What was the sugars? 37.2.
Yeah.
Yep. And what was the fat?
10.8.
0.8?
10.8.
Fats. So, to figure that out quickly, without having to, you can always, you know they trick you by putting the kilojoules, it's a bigger number, they try and confuse you.
Yeah.
You never go to Macca's and they say a burger's 400 calories, they want you to do the math. So you don't do the math and then still buy the burger. That's exactly what they do, they're bastards. So, protein's 9.6, you times that by 4, will give you the calories for your protein. Your carbs, 37.2 grams, times that by 4, that'll give you your calories for your carbs. And then your fat, 10.8 times by 9 will give you calories. But there's 2 serves in that, so then you've got to times it all by 2. So this is how we read a food label. So if I go to the supermarket and I find something, then I'm like, I'm hungry, what can I have? Well, I'll quickly look at it and go, yeah, protein's higher than the carbs, which usually means it's good. If you think about all the foods that have got higher protein than carbs, eggs, chicken, tuna, it might be cottage cheese, all these things are really good because they don't cause a massive insulin spike. They're protein to keep us full when they're low in the calorie density. So that's quickly, I just always look at the sugars because if it's anything higher than 5 grams of sugars, it's starting to get a little bit high. Everyone's got that. Try not to take a chunk out if you want to pass that around and have a look. Anyone got any questions about protein, carbs, or fats? Okay. For me, I don't count macros. I've been doing it long enough that I just eat quite intuitively, so I make sure that every meal size, my protein's higher than my carbs, and my fats and carbs are kind of about the same, and if I'm hungry, I eat. So my body will just tell me, and hopefully I can get you guys to that point where you eat intuitively rather than just having, oh, how many calories can I have, how many macros can I have, oh shit, I'm over, shit, I'm under, because this stress is worse than actually eating the food. Because stress is like horrible to the body, it like makes us break out, inflammation, all sorts of stuff.
So how do you record it if like you do a lot of cooking at home and it's not
Breakfast.
on a packet?
So what you need to do is download MyFitnessPal. It's just the easiest one to download, the easiest one to use. If you're confused about how many calories, proteins and carbs after this that you kind of need, come and see me. But you scan what you're eating. So with the bunny, instead of me going up on my big blackboard or whiteboard at home and working it out myself, I just scan it on the app and it tells me straight away. MyFitnessPal. So you'll have to set it up. Don't worry about the whole, you can plug it in to have your calories in there. So the 40, 30, 30, and you can manipulate all that. So you can set up your profile the way you want to go. And then I'll have a look at it on like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. You see me around the box, just come and see me and say, hey, does this look set up right? Yeah, so you can always, and it'll tell you as a percentage whether you're above or below your macros. Don't let these numbers scare you guys, because seriously, I get so many people that come to me and they're like, oh, I was 20 grams under on my protein and I was 50 grams over on my fat, and oh my God, I had the biggest blowout of a weekend. Well, get your shit together, move on to the next day, and then kick off with your plan, okay? Because you will fail. You will eat a bunny at Easter. You will have probably too many beers one night. But it's when you consistently do that, that you get negative results. When it's a once-off and you've got this base plan that works for you, so you're in a 500 calorie deficit or you're in a 300 calorie surplus and you're constantly sticking to your base plan, well, that will be the one that wins. The thing that you are the most consistent with. Consistency will always outweigh that. Oops. Yeah, we went through that. Meal prep. Do I have to do meal prep? Well, no, you don't. Does meal prep work for you? I guarantee there's people in here with kids that on a Sunday at 3 p.m, the last thing they want is 6 pots going, 20 Tupperware containers, and they're just chopping up all their vegetables and measuring out their protein, right? Well, Julie, you're a freak. All you want to do is put your foot up, get the kids outside and just chill. So if that means that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But if you are unprepared through the week and make bad decisions with your food, when you're tired, can't be fucked, have to work late, okay? And you go for the takeaway or something really easy, Vegemite sandwich, There's someone that has a Vegemite sandwich. Then that's what you'll need to do. You have to have something. You need to be prepared to be unprepared. Because it's the times that you feel like that you'll make the bad decisions. Who eats everything in their eye line when they're hungry at home? Right? You just work your way from the top shelf to the bottom. You're just like, no, what else is left? And then you're like, far out. I just had like 4 things of sarkartas and 3 things of guacamole dip. Right? Because you were hungry. And you didn't make the right preparation earlier on. The benefits of meal prep is that you always have something to go to, and that you know that this meal has my right carbs, my right fats, my right protein, and it's ready to go, and I just have to chuck it in the microwave and go. If you've got time, cook fresh, have it ready to go each night, that's fine too. And then you can just have whatever leftovers you have for the next day, then you might want to tidy that into lunch. So if meal prep works really well for you, it does work well for me, but then I just can't stick consistent to it. It just pisses me off. I get the superfoods from Woolies or Woolies. They're just a frozen meal, and they have them in vegetarian as well. And when I just can't be buggered, for particularly around lunchtime, I just chuck it in the microwave. There's like 400 or 500 calories. I think it's got my 3 serves of veggies as well, and then I'm off, ready to go. Superfoods. They're really, really good, and they're only like $5 each. I think they go on sale every now and then for like $3.50. So you just have them in the freezer, and then like, seriously, because I normally do PTs from 7 to 11, and by 11 o'clock I'm like, oh, and I work right next to KFC, Red Rooster, and a kebab shop. It's like V-line straight home, I've got something prepared. Okay? I've sent you through 3 meal prep websites this morning. One that's 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 5 to 6. They are American, but if you can pick through some of the crap that they have, like their turkey bacon and all that crap, pick which ones might work for you that you might think that'll work really well. I've found with that site, and I've vetted all of them, that they're pretty good for the kids too. So if you don't want to have to cook yourself dinner and then the kids something dinner, you should probably have something similar. So it's not such a chore. Okay? The other one is if anyone's got Instagram, the meal prep manual is a godsend. It's like, seriously, 40,000 photos with the attached recipes on everything that they have. They go through the benefits of different meats, how to portion it out properly. Did anyone see the picture I put up on the Wolf Den CrossFit page with the 2 things? They're exact same food, but one was more calories than... Meal prep. Yep, meal prep manual. I also bought 3 of these books online, so don't pay for them, and I'll just let you see them and definitely not share them illegally. No, it's a page. It might be the meal prep manual. But it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos. He's done all the hard work for you. So if you get stuck with, oh, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Go through, have a quick look, and then either go and get that shopping now and then, or come back and then do it as a meal prep. Have them ready to go. It's a beauty, seriously. There's so many cool things in there. Why don't I keep doing that? This one. Okay. So the small things, when they're all collectively added together, make a big difference in what we're trying to achieve. Okay? A lot of this is it can be adapted to whether you're trying to lose weight or put on muscle or stay the same, regardless. Okay? Who's a really quick eater? Yeah, me too. I'm just trying to smash my food. It takes about 10 to 20 minutes for your brain to connect to the stomach to think that you're hungry, that you're full. So if you load up your plate and your brain just goes, ooh, that's what I'm going to eat, it'll eat everything, okay? And then 10 minutes later you get sick because you're like far out over 8.
Is that too that insulin response again if you're smashing down your food, or is that real?
It's literally like a delayed response. Yeah. Like you fill your stomach up, the blood starts to rush around the stomach and try and digest, sends a message to the brain, goes, whoa, I'm too full. So take your time when you're eating your food, because it also helps with the breakdown, so you get more nutrients as well. So you can actually break it down and help out the digestive system, rather than it sitting in whole chunks in your gut, and then you've got wind for like 4 hours because you've just got big chunks of stuff just sitting in there. Right? Chew food. Drink it with water too. It makes the stuff in your gut expand, and it can make you feel fuller for longer. So if you're used to having 3,000 calories a day and you're going back down to say, I don't know, 1,800, because you're in that 500 calorie deficit, or you're in your 300 calorie surplus, or wherever your macros sit. That will help make you feel a bit fuller for longer. Has anyone heard that sitting's the new smoking? Sitting's the new smoking. Being sedentary is the same as smoking.
It gives you cancer.
Yeah, it does. Through hypertension,
Hypertension,
diabetes, stroke, cardiovascular disease, all these things that are responsible for being sitting for too long.
bad day.
Not enough time to relax. If you're a stress head, good luck losing fat. You need to make sure that you have things in process to try and reduce your stress levels. So if that means you just need to take a chill out every day and do something like a rhomboid, where you get 20 minutes to yourself and you can just stretch and be in peace, then go and do that.
That's not cortisol, isn't it?
Cortisol. It's like, cortisol. Yeah. It's like when you, cortisol is a stress hormone as well. So it's good to have a certain amount of cortisol because it keeps you alert. That when anyone gone on holidays before and got sick the first day that they get there, because everything beforehand you're stressing, you're rushing around, trying to go to passports, you're freaking out, cortisol drops, boom, sick. Because your immunity takes a massive cop out. So meditation, if that's not really my area of expertise, but I do have a few things that you can do to try and bring yourself down a little bit instead of turning to the bottom. Drinking your calories. So Big M, so easy to drink, 600 ml ton, but you just had, did we figure out how many sugars were in that Big M? 37 times by, oh so,
This times 2.
yeah, so 37 times 2, 37.2 times 2, 70,
37.2 times 2.
yeah, and then divide that by 4.1 is the teaspoons of sugar.
18.
Yeah, so you had 18 teaspoons of sugar and 1 thing of milk, and it's so easy to smash. And how often do you have a pie with one? You always get a pie at the beginning. Alright? So you got something that's really fatty, full of pastry, and then you have your sugar.
It's got meat in it.
Yeah. It's like consistent protein.
Yeah, you've still got my macro count though. Not enough protein, so like I said before, if you're not having enough protein, you won't support your muscle mass. If you don't have muscle, our BMR is going to be going down and down and down because the muscle's expensive to run. So we want more muscle, so more protein. And not enough fibre. Fibre is the thing that goes through your guts and cleans them out. Things that are high in fibre, fruit and vegetables. I think 17, I read the study last night, it's Americans, 17% of all Americans eat the right amount of vegetables and fruit. And they're the fattest country in the world after us, per capita.
After
After us.
So where the fattest?
Yes, per capita.
Australia.
Yes, in the world. Not enough vegetables. So you try and stick to 2 serves of fruit and 5 serves of veggies. Wherever you can, try and put your veggies into your meal. So it could be even in breakfast. So if you're doing an omelette, try chucking some onions, some capsicum, some broccoli, whatever it may be to actually give you the nutrient-dense food that you need to support your goal. That's with anyone. Weight loss, weight gain, muscle mass. You need the right amount of nutrients to support your body to be able to do what you want it to do. No, I don't guarantee, unless you like, probably Taryn's the only one that eats the right amount of vegetables because if she's not, what the bloody hell is she eating? Right? And it's so good. You like make a vegetarian pizza with chicken, it's like the best pizza in the world. Vegetarian lasagna with meat. Phones out. Pull up, if you've got an iPhone, pull up the health app. If you've got an iWatch or a Fitbit, I want to know exactly who got 10,000 steps yesterday.
I did. I know I did.
Yeah? Nice, Jez. So there's a health app on your phone, I'm recording, there's a health app on your phone that you can look up your steps.
I don't carry my phone when I do
Yes.
things, so
If you don't have your phone on you, it's not going to count as steps.
must have phone with you.
You can trick your Fitbit by moving your arm too, by the way. That's bloody awesome. Perfect.
9,959.
Awesome. There's no way.
49.
Deceiving.
I didn't wear it.
I did 780.
Right. But more often than not, you'll find that there's a thing that's lining up that you're not actually moving enough. So there is things out there, your phone, your Fitbit, your iPhone watch, your Samsung, Hoo-Ha, whatever it may be, that'll tell you whether you're moving or not. But if you generally try and stick to 10,000 steps a day, you're on the right way to start moving enough. So that's where incidental exercise, who always goes for the car park closest to the shop? Me, every time. I'll park in anywhere to get closest. Right? Park further away, you've got immediate steps. You do that for 7 days or over 5 weeks, you're getting yourself an extra like 20,000 steps by just parking a little bit further away from the shops. So incidental exercise is a massive one. Everything in our life at the moment is to make us move less. Like we just put the kettle under the jug, flick it on, put it on. We used to have to go get water and walk to the fire and put it on. And you already did 4,000 steps just to get a hot drink. Everything in our life is made to be easier. And that's why we're getting fatter, because we don't freaking move and we eat too much shit. Carly was 12 weeks pregnant when she did the last challenge. She lost 8 kilos. Sorry, she lost 6.5 kilos. She had, and she lost huge amounts off her waist and her hips. So she was pregnant, and her food when she came to me was really good. I think that she was sitting about 2,300, 2,400 calories though, so it was too much.
So she was 12 weeks when she started the challenge?
She must have been like,
so she
said she found out like 10 or 11 weeks when she was pregnant after she did the challenge. She started at 5. So things were against her to start putting on weight, which is what happens. But her morning breakfast was all these really dense, healthy fats. So she had like macadamias and avocados and to build this muesli up. And I did the math. We went through this quick fitness power and figured it out. She had to stuff around with it early. Found it had like 800 calories with just her breakfast. So we pulled some things out, adjusted it to like a 400 to 500 calorie breakfast, and she ate really healthy. She ate salmon, all these really good fats, and that's all we did. So we didn't even, she just exercised the same, and her food's actually perfect. I went through it, was really, 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 really good. I was like, you sure this is like what you eat? Because this is like meticulous. She's just having too many of the good fats. I can't remember off the topic, I'm not pretty good at this stuff, but say an avocado has like 300 calories in one avocado. A tablespoon of olive oil, 120 calories. Tablespoon of olive oil. How much olive oil do you put on your salads? Just because this is so high in fat.
So that's what I get. So that's good stuff, your avocado, but that's adding to, so you can only have like 3 avocados or 5 avocados a day, and that's it if you're trying to stick to a specific macro.
Yeah, if you're trying to stick to your macros, which is like 30% of 1800, then you want to stick to manipulate your amount of avocado to stick within your fats. That's the biggest thing though, like I've heard people get to lunch and they're like, oh, I've run out of fats for the day. It's like, oh my God, how stressful is that? Like, just get on with your life. Just try and keep yourself in a small deficit. If you have a few more fats, oh my, it's not going to fucking kill you. That's, I'll tell you, if you come up to me and be like, I had 1799 calories and I'm only meant to be at 1900, I'm going to kick you in the ass. I don't want to hear about it, right? You just want to be in around that number to make sure that you consistently do it so you don't go and smash an Easter bunny at 2 AM on a Sunday because you didn't have enough food through the day.
How much is a glass of wine?
A glass of wine's about 130 to 140 calories. It is not bad. A bottle's about 800, so let's be realistic, 800 calories. A beer's about 110 to 130, Pure Blonde's a little bit less, but it's 130. Let's be honest, we'll probably have 6. But let's add that to our daily intake already. Normally you have a beer with some dips, some cheeses, boom, we're at a 900 calorie surplus, you're not losing fat. Shopping hungry, don't do it. How good does everything look when you're hungry when you're shopping? Oh my God. Go there, have some food, go on your Sunday, your Saturday, Tuesday morning whenever you want to go shopping for the week, get set up so you don't have to keep doing small shops all the time. They stay sick to the outside. Does anyone know that they're starting to put all the shit on the outside of the shops now?
Yeah, and when you walk in, they've got a big thing, chocolates on sale.
Yes.
And chips on sale.
So I went there yesterday and I saw a bloke, he had his trolley full, he was walking to go pay for his food, and he's like, because they got the right colours.
Yeah.
Because colours bring joy in. They've got the big dollar sign with the savings of $2. Oh, chocolate $2 cheaper. Oh my god. $3 for a block. Boom, in the trolley. Right? Out of sight, out of mind. If you seriously chocolate's an issue, or pies or custard, don't have it in your house. Because when you go for a drive to purposely go to the shops to go and get a pie or a chocolate, you feel like a piece of shit. You're like, oh, I'm actually going down, I have to drive to go get chocolate. Yeah, you're a cake maker, get it out. Lock the cabinets. Coffee. Coffee can stay. But there's about 170, 180 calories in a cappuccino. So if you're having 7 a week, that's 1,400 calories of coffee a week.
What's in the milk? Like,
Is that a normal or a skinny cat?
Look, skinny, full fat, stick to the plan of trying to find out like your sugars, your carbs and your protein. But there's 12.5 grams of sugar in a cup of milk, 12.5 grams of fat and about 9 grams of protein. So there's already 3 teaspoons of sugar in 1 cup of milk. It's not table sugar, caster sugar, there's fructose and all this other good jazz. But if we try and stick to the plan of the sugar, yeah, if you have too much of that, that's why we often see people blow out. I saw a guy down the takeaway shop the other day. He was huge, big boy. A lot of hard work put into that. Large latte, 4 teaspoons of sugar. I thought he's just going to order a coffee. It was massive. They had like 3 or 4 teaspoons of sugar into that, or in the milk. That would be like a 500 to 600 calorie drink. It's like, no wonder you're that size. You're constantly doing that. So what do? You can either go to an espresso, you can have smaller coffees, you can have macchiatos. If coffee is really important to you, you want to try and reduce the amount of milk because that's... Or if you like the cappuccino once a day and it fits within your deficit, then go for it. But you can easily go overboard with just coffee, especially milk and stuff. It's so easy to have 3 coffees in a day, and that's already 600 calories. Dressings and sauces, just be wary of what's in it, guys. As soon as I grab a dressing or a sauce, I just go to it, and then if it says 26 teaspoons or 26 grams of sugar, it's like, no go. That's not happening today. Because it's too much sugar. The sugar, I didn't go through this, because anyone didn't ask me about the sugars and the carbs with the ratios. So it's protein, carbs, and fats, but sugar's not in there, right?
Sugar's just carbs?
Sugar is a carb, but it specifically says on the, say on the bunny, it had protein, carbs 37 sugars. Yeah. So if you ignore that, the sugars, then you're going to be in this massive surplus because you're actually avoiding another sub macro. So sugars and carbs. Look at the sugars. That should be about 15% of your carb intake. Okay. Of that ratio. No more. So something like 30 to 35 grams of sugar under a day. 35 under a day. So 15%. Which are all different to people who are active and whatever else goes on. We want to keep that low. And the weekend. Who's really good Monday to Friday? Yeah. But then the weekend's like 4 days worth of calories in one day, right? Cool your jets, right? Try and get it under wraps. If you're going to have dips and things and you're going to have entertain, well then try and make the changes throughout the day. That breakfast is super healthy, lunch is really nutritious, then go do what you need to do with your friends, but don't sit there and question why you're not losing weight when you had a block of brie and half a slab of Dalmatis and all sorts of stuff. Okay, you got to keep this shit under check. And if you get trouble tracking it, that's why I've given you a book. So your book's to put in your strength training with me, so we can make sure that we progressively overload our weights, and we'll be really meticulous to the kilo with our weights. But if you want to track your calories and you want me to go through it with you weekly, I want you to use the book, or you use the app, and you can come and show me the app, because it keeps you accountable. Okay. If you only want to do it for 3 days just to see where you sit and you find out you're pretty good, then I'll let you go, because that's the kind of this that keeps spinning everywhere. Sorry about that, camera. Talking for an hour, wowza. Where was I up to? Oh, so yeah, running your calories. So just track them for 3 to 5 days to get a bit of a snapshot on where you are. That might give you a chance if you travel for work, what happens when you travel for work. You travel for work? Yeah. Or you're just staying at home and you're getting a nice collective picture of what your calorie intake might be for the whole 5 weeks. I don't want you to stress about numbers, but if you have trouble tracking your food and hitting the right macros and stuff, at least do it for a little bit just to make sure that you're on the right track. And then if things are moving, the weight's starting to come down or our measurements are starting to change when we do something like that halfway, then boom, we'll just keep going. And if it's not moving, then we'll make a more aggressive change with our diet or our food. Okay. So the weekend, cool your jets. I think we went too past all that. Just be wary with this one that you read how many serves. So the first one here will always be the serve, and the next one you'll find 100 grams, like per 100 grams. So if you're getting a thing of pasta and you want to measure it out to 100 grams, you could use that one, but that one won't be the recommended serve. But that's where they'll trick you, is they'll always they might even put 2.5 or 5. I think cottage cheese. Servings per pat 1.6. So you do the servings and then times it by.
So you could share it with your 12-year-old and eat the whole thing.
Yes. 2/3 The one thing I haven't gone through is to have a look at your ingredients list. Because that's super important to have a look at your ingredients list as well. What actually makes up this? If you've got something that's on your ingredients list that you don't understand, you probably shouldn't be eating. Okay? So for example, preservatives, flavours, all this additives, like the Coke, you can actually go and Google all these numbers that they use too. And you'll find that they have common similarities in like poisons and stuff, shampoos. Crazy. What have we got in ingredients list? I can't see it. Yeah, I can't see that one, that's okay. So have a look at the ingredients list. If the ingredients list is 5 ingredients or less, you're on the right track. 5 ingredients or less. And if you don't understand it, you probably shouldn't be sticking it in your body. Sarah showed me a really good girl, I don't know if you know this girl, I think her name's CrossFit Kate, CF Kate. I don't know if anyone knows her. She's really good. I looked on her Instagram the other day and she does stories. You go to the Woolworths section and she just shows all these foods and she gives you a demo on like what they're all from, where you can get like wild caught fish, all at Woolworths. It's all on her story. And normally I don't like all that stuff. She's really good. Some stuff in there I was like, nah, it's a bit iffy. She's all organic everything. Don't be tricked by the organic sweet potato right next to the normal potato because they're the same thing for $2 dearer. Supplements. It's not super important to supplement if your food is good. Okay, if your food is, you're getting it from whole foods, there's no need to go and supplement everything. You don't need L-glutamine, arginine, tyrosine, all this stuff to support your training. The one thing, or 2 things I found work really well are protein. So a nice lean WPI works really well to have to support our muscle mass. And what you'll find is people, it doesn't matter particularly if you have it after your workout, unless you're like in that 2%, 3% sort of athletic sort of area, we can have it with a fast-acting carb to help us replace our glycogen levels. So there might be 1 or 2 of you in here that would work really well for, but as long as you get your protein in. But what you do find is people who are really strict with it, having in that 30-minute window after they train, they apply that discipline to other areas. That's why it works. It's like when I went to the obstetrician the other day, and the doctor said, your intention to breastfeed already makes, so if you actually just try, if you physically just try, the baby's already in a better place than where it would be if you didn't try. Just by the intention to try. That was like the stats on the outcomes versus the breastfeeding and non-breastfeeding. The doctor told me just if you try, you're going to have a positive outcome. So I think that's really cool. And you can apply that there. And the creatine is probably the most heavily documented and supported substance for strength, muscle gain, and will help with fat loss because of that type of training. Creatine is really, 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 really good. As long as you have 5 grams a day, you're doing it well. So 1 serve, you can have it in protein shake. Doesn't matter what time of day you have it, as long as you have it every day. And it's quite cheap supplement too. Creatine. Really quickly, when you do weights, you use 3 different energy systems. The first energy system is, say for us, is for our strength and our weights. ATP needs phosphate creatine to constantly cycle so that we can do the activity. That's why if you grab a weight that you can only shift for 12 reps, you physically can't lift it any more than 12 reps. It's because of that inability for the phosphate creatine to reproduce to get you 13, 14 reps. So by having the creatine, you have more readily available phosphate creatine to help that out, which might give you a couple more reps and will help with your strength. So creatine helps it at that level.
Is there a thing with women and creatine and water retention and stuff?
They say that, I mean, yeah. There is, I've read it, and then people say they do and people say they don't. If you're stronger, what's it going to matter? And if you come off it for a week, your hydration levels equal out as well. So there's much of a muchness. I'd say if you're like puffy and looking bloated and you're like, whoa, it's probably just the creatine, relax. But it's a really, really good supplement. I'm not saying have it, but if you want to, especially if you're trying to put on muscle and get a bit stronger, that might be a supplement that works really well. And if it doesn't, well, we've got all the weights in the world that we can measure it for. So we'll squat you to squat at the end. If you're not squatting it by the end and it's not heavier, well then we don't ever have to have creatine every week. Because I'll be keeping a sharp eye on it. So they're the strength trainings that we're going to be doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 6:30, Tuesday, Thursday, 9 AM, Saturday, Sunday. Now, there's going to be heaps of questions. That's why I didn't put it in the thing. Because I can give you all that stuff, but you're all going to have little bits of questions like where to from here. So I think what the best thing to do is firstly analyse or identify what your calorie intake should be for the day, and what do we need to do to be in a deficit, surplus, or a maintenance. And then you can go and attack the shops, get loaded up, and then start building you're planning out your week, what you might have. And if planning doesn't work for you, you like to do it on the fly, well then you'll do it daily on the fly. Surely there's going to be a few questions.
Can I ask you, so you say your calories are supposed to be 1,500 or something,
Yep.
and then should you factor in, if you do CrossFit, then you add another 300 that you're allowed to eat, or should you just ignore whatever exercise you do?
What are we trying to put on a bit of muscle?
Or just whatever it is, your goal is, it says 1,500. Do you
Is that for maintenance?
No, so if you want to lose half a kilo a week and you've got 1,500
whatever.
calories,
Yeah,
you're allowed
whatever
to
it is, yeah. So say it's maintenance 1,500, but then if you go and train and you know that you've burnt a certain amount of calories,
Yep.
can you then eat 300 calories more, or do you just ignore the fact that you did work out?
Depending,
Like
if
one day
it's
I
for
work out, one day I don't.
if it's for aggressive weight loss, like you're trying to lose, 5 to 10 kilos, I wouldn't factor it in.
Yeah.
If you're exercising lots, I would factor that in.
And how do you factor that in?
Right? This is where it's really, really hard, and like someone who gets paid a lot more. Yeah, you do. But the thing is, right, not every CrossFit workout's built equal. So sometimes you'll do something like Murph, which destroys you, and you actually need to actively recover with the right food. And then other workouts might be like Fran, which is tough, but metabolically it's not that demanding because it was only 2 minutes of work. Fran's probably a bad example.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you do Fran on 2 minutes?
No, something like
Just like a 9-minute.
yeah, like a 7-minute workout where you're puffy, but it's not like you need to go and replace all your carbohydrates because you probably didn't even burn into them. But that's where we can make changes, and your body will let you know. Am I really, really, really hungry? Then you're probably not eating enough to get back to where you need to be. But if you keep it the same, so let's say you're having 1,700 calories every day, and yours is only small because you're little, you will have the same every day. And then all these determining factors that are different, well, you've still got your base plan to work around, even on the days that you don't train. Any question?
Just measurements. You said you were going to do measurements.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah, we'll do that in a second.
So is there certain foods that you should be eating before you work out or after you
Say
work
again?
out? Is there certain foods that you should be eating before you work out or straight after you work out?
Yeah. I'll send out some stuff on the group today. Generally speaking, if you're doing it for performance, then we can start tinkering with pre-workout nutrition and post-workout nutrition. If you're doing it for fat loss, it doesn't particularly matter. It's more about just getting that calorie right for you. If you feel like a slug without something in your stomach before you train, then you should have something before you train. If you're really depleted after you train and you feel like you're a bit giddy and stuff because you haven't eaten, then you'll need to eat after you train. Generally speaking, it's good to have something after you train to try and help you out and start the recovery process. Go, mate. I'll get your scan. I'll get your measurements done the first day I see you.
Yep.
When are you next?
Tuesday.
I'll do on Tuesday. Cool.
Footy.
We just grab you like sort of during the week
What
to see
measurements
ya.
are we
Just
taking?
get a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, you message me, you can hit us up on the group, like just talk to me. The best thing that you're going to have is me trying to help you out through questions, and there'll be all sorts of things. But I think probably what I haven't gone through is people might be a little bit confused about what they can actually eat right now. Identify your calorie goal. Get a ballpark on where you are sitting with your ratio. So are you going to do 40, 30, 35 protein? And start figuring out how many grams that is, and then eat around that. If you're nowhere near it, then we'll fix it. If you're ballpark, let's just keep working on that so we can keep you consistent. And I'll just keep sending out. I've got tons of stuff that I can send out. I just don't want to flood you all with information at the moment because we're just going through tons of that. And then we'll progressively do it. If you're cooking something healthy and it looks really good and you want to share it, please share it to the group because other people will really lap that up. And they might want the recipe. If you see stuff out in the stores on sale, I don't know, FroPro ice cream, Chris. Yeah, just let us know and we'll put it on the group. The fit aids, if you're drinking them, just cool your jets on them too if you're having like 10 a week. Because it's the same as 3 teaspoons of sugar in there as well.
And which body parts are we measuring, just because some of us have got to get going?
Yeah, if you need to get going straight away, I'll quickly come up and get them done, and then if you don't need to go, just give us 5 minutes and I'll get through them. If you want to stick around and you want to ask a question because it's too many people, then stick around and I'll stick around for as long as you need. Cool, cool?
Good job, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, can I please have your scan so I can log them and keep them and you don't lose them, and if we lose them, it's on me. I might just get you to put them on my lap. Yep.
I'll try and catch you during the week, mate.
Yeah, mate, I'll set you first thing on the
Cool.